Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. This video a lot of you have been waiting for, and this is going to be a partial update on our new Eco-Worthy wind turbine, our 400 watt wind turbine. We did a full install video and kind of assessed the situation for about a month and gave you our honest opinion. I mean, I showed you real life. Jen and I showed you real life experience with it from start to finish. So check that video out. But today we're gonna show you what we did to improve this, and hopefully maybe in a week or so I could give you an update to how it's working at the end of this video. If the wind and weather doesn't cooperate, well, you're gonna see kind of what our theories are and what is happening, what I just did to help improve this system. So Jen, how many times have you told me to do this?
Probably 5 or 600.
So this
sometimes you just need a kick in the butt.
Yeah. So if something's not keeping us alive or keeping us surviving or thriving, then sometimes it's not a priority, and we have a good system here, and this is kind of like a fun thing to experiment with.
But I told them we needed to do an update because it's been about a month since we installed it, and
been about 2 months since we installed it.
Yeah, and a lot of you are asking questions and everything about it, how we switched it over. So I told them it was time
to get it done.
Because otherwise it'll be summertime and then he'll be too busy.
So let's talk about some of the things that didn't happen in the last month, but some of the things we figured out, because everything takes us and anyone in this environment, I guess, to figure things out and perfect, right? Nobody's perfect, and nobody does everything perfectly the first time around. So let's show you what I just did. I showed you at the beginning of this video me fiddling a little bit with this system. Let me show you what I did and why I did it. Previously, when we installed this system, it was a little bit earlier in the year. It was kind of like fall still, and temperatures weren't so bitter cold. And we had this Eco-Worthy system set up, the 400 watt turbine generator, set up with an inverter, our own inverter on 24 volt, their charge controller, their unloader, and their batteries, Eco-Worthy's batteries. They sent us a couple of lithium iron phosphate LiFePO4 batteries, and we gave one of those away in that video. So thank you guys for supporting that video and commenting, and congratulations to David for winning that battery. We try to do a couple giveaways a year here, and we're gonna try to work even more on that in the future. So subscribe and stay tuned to our videos for occasional giveaways and fun activities like that. So what I ended up doing was swapping our batteries. You cannot charge LiFePO4 batteries in the winter time when they're below freezing. They have low temperature protection, which keeps them protected. The BMS does that. That's in the battery, and you could discharge them, you just can't charge them up. So I think we've been kind of running this wind turbine in vain. That was a problem that we just corrected by swapping out these batteries. We had these old AGM batteries that were taking care of us for the last 3 years. We can charge these in the cold. We have been charging them in the cold for the last 3 years. And we had a couple of these sitting around. We figured we'd swap these out, use our LiFePO4 batteries somewhere else, or save them for springtime. We can maybe use them in our mini cabin build that we're working on. We can use them elsewhere. But we have these batteries set up, 2 of them in parallel. We switched to 12 volt as well. We switched the other batteries to 12 volt and ran that for the last few months, and like I said before, it was kind of in vain because it's so cold outside. These batteries do not heat themselves, or the Eco-Worthy batteries do not heat themselves. Again, new batteries, so we're gonna try with this for the next week and see if we can give you an update at the end of this video. Another problem we solved and had in our original setup was that we have a 24 volt wind turbine and a charge controller. The charge controller could convert this 24 volt power coming from our wind turbine to 24 volt or 12 volt. What we were having a problem with is our wind turbine would spin consistently at 10 miles per hour. We would get 17, 18, 20 volts, almost 24 volts, and it would very rarely charge our 24 volt system because it would require a little more wind to get into that charging function. That's why we switched to a 12 volt system now. I changed the parameters in our charge controller, and we changed our batteries from 24 volt in series, you know, two 12 volt batteries in series, to make 24 volts. We switched them to 12 volt. We still have two batteries because we want to have plenty of capacity or storage capacity for extra power if we need it or have it. But that 12 volt function now is going to allow our 5 to 10 mile per hour winds to create a charge for us. It's probably a steady 7-8 mile per hour wind. Maybe Jen will go check that for me. I don't know if that, you know, check the weather. Maybe our weather station tells us, but our weather station is not in the best position or place either. But Jen will check the wind. But my guesstimate would be it's a 7-8 mile per hour steady wind, which is nice. And we're getting charged now.
It says right now we are getting 12.5 mile an hour winds.
Oh, 12.5, so we're doing good. That seems high, but that's, you know, maybe. Let's see, 12 miles per hour seems high. I think this is more like 8 to 10, but I could be wrong. But we're getting charged now is where I'm trying to go with this. Before, we needed 10 to 15 mile per hour winds to get any sort of charge. Now, at the 5 to 10 mile and plus, anything north of 5 to 10 miles per hour, we get charge. Right now, this red light indicates that it's pushing some type of charge into the batteries. 3 to 5, you know, half of it. Oh, there's closer to an amp. So what that's doing, when we get 1 amp, we're getting about 12 watts. Yeah, you know, yay. But it's something, and it's a trickle charge. So now we're getting consistent charge on this 12 volt setup. And we're gonna monitor this. It keeps going from between half an amp and 1 amp. And again, we're not on an especially windy day. This is just kind of typical wind in the winter. AGM batteries, like I said before, they could charge. So this is just going to trickle charge this system. So we also had to swap out our inverter because we had a 24 volt inverter. That was the primary reason we started with 24 volt, was because we had some of the stuff to create that system. This is going to create a backup system for us. We're going to get AC power out of this inverter from these two batteries. Right now, the battery status is at 12.2 to 12.4 volts, so they're pretty low. These batteries have been sitting for 4 to 6 months since we swapped to our new solar system. If you guys are interested in larger solar setups and want to see how we progress through the last few years, check out that series. We have like a little 3-video series of improving this system and switching over to this system. But we had a lot of this stuff sitting around from our old 24 volt system. And now that we're at 48 volt system, we figured we'd use our 24 volt stuff. But in vain, again, because this is going to work better now. It's set up in 12 volt. That would be my recommendation if I can give you any advice. Start with it at a 12 volt system. This would be perfectly adequate for a small cabin, for 12 volt lights, or to convert it to AC and run a few small AC devices or appliances. But yeah, we're getting consistent charge now. U fan is 12.8, 13. See, there we got a little gust of wind. We're getting 13 volts out of that gust of wind. And 1.2 amps. So again, it's low wattage. That's, you know, 15 watts. But if we have that consistently for weeks on end, that's going to charge the system up. If you're a weekend warrior, or if you're looking for you're a van lifer, camper, someone who's using low draw and not high consumption, like we are using a little more consumption for our cabin. We're using a couple hundred watts all day long. Obviously, a 400 watt wind turbine will not fulfill your needs when you're drawing 200 watts all day long. If you want supplementary power generation, wind turbine probably work good for you. If you're a weekend warrior, you go to your cabin every other weekend or once a month, this will help keep your batteries charged, especially when there's no sunshine. Yes, solar panels work better. There's no argument for that. Solar panels produce better than wind generators. But this is something to supplement your system, not necessarily rely on.
And it charges at night too, which is good.
there you go. And like Jen just said,
it's really windy all the time at night here.
Yeah. So like Jen said, yeah, 24 hours a day rather than 6 to 8 hours a day in the winter time.
Yeah.
So
that's a bonus.
Yeah.
Also.
And we're actually coming into our windier season.
Yep.
Winter time is windy, but we've had, you know,
spring is wicked windy.
Yeah. When the weather transitions from winter to spring to summer, it is very gusty up here on top of the hill.
So we'll be able to produce lots of power, and he'll be able to make you some more videos about that.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to get some like crazy wind the next week or so, because we're gonna have some like Arctic temperatures with like
gonna be 0 degrees.
Negative wind chills, like negative 30 wind chills. So we're gonna have some crazy winds. So
it's already pretty cold if you ask me. It's
and it's like a 5-degree wind chill outside right now. That's what it feels like. Next week it's gonna be like negative 30. So we'll be able to give you a really good update next week.
Yeah. So hopefully, like I said, this is hopefully the first half of this video, but we could next week, you know, we'll give it a week, assess the situation, see if we get some improvement, make it improvements, and yeah, give us a few minutes here, and hopefully I can add some more to the end of this video, and we could give you a little update of how things have changed and improved over the last week of this system set up properly.
Okay.
All right, we'll catch up with you in a few. All right, guys, let's do a wind turbine wrap up here. It's been a couple months since we installed it. If you haven't seen the wind turbine install video, check that out. But we're finally getting a few days here of constant wind, and the wind turbine's doing a pretty good job. I made some additions to it. I added a solar panel to it yesterday, and that's going to help that whole system function way better. Basically, what we're learning here is that wind is a supplemental option, not a full-time solution to any problems. So you're not going to get 400 watts out of a 400 watt wind turbine. We have literally had this thing running through 20, 30 mile an hour winds, and we've never seen it push more than 2 or 3 amps on a 15 to 20 volt status. So that being said, you're looking at 50 watts on sustainable wind at the most. What we did was, just to test it, to put a small load on it, we ran our Starlink, which draws 35 to 55 watts. Since yesterday, we ran it for 24 hours. The inverter started beeping low, and I'm talking to you in here, I guess, because it's windy, so hopefully you could hear me over the wind. But yeah, so we tried to put a small load on that system. We ran this extension cord from the inverter that's hooked up to the 3 batteries that are hooked to the wind turbine. It drained it down in less than 24 hours. Even with a steady spinning here, we're getting charged continuously since we installed it pretty much, and it's not keeping up with 50 watts. Or 35 to 55 watts with the Starlink hooked up to it. So the inverter displayed low. So I turned the inverter off. Let's turn it back on. It's been off for a few hours now. There's no load on it. This is plugged in, but no load. So it says 12 volts. You can see that the charge symbol is on full time. It says 12.8 volts for the PV. So that's giving it a little bit of charge, a little bit of solar charge. 12.5 volts. The fan is giving us 0.8 of an amp, 0.7 of an amp. U-fan, the battery is at 11.9 volts, which correlates with our 12 volts that we're getting off the inverter. The inverter's telling us. So we're getting a very small trickle charge. That's just the solar panel that we mounted here on the side of the solar shed. I did this so we could maybe hopefully run the Starlink on that system. If we were getting a little bit of sunshine each day, and maybe if these batteries started out full, they were all pretty drained when I set this up. So again, we're gonna have to keep monitoring this, but we need sunshine. Basically what I'm learning is, like most people say, sunshine is best. Solar is gonna outperform wind 10 times over. One 200 watt panel here that's mounted to the side of the solar shed is going to get 4 times what we'll ever see unless we have dramatic storm wind out of that wind turbine. One 200 watt panel. The wind turbine is cool. I'll agree. I've wanted to do the wind turbine. I've wanted to do the wind turbine project for 4 years. I wanted to experiment with it for you guys and for myself, for self-interest. I wish there was a way to more easily install it, that part, but the rest of it, assembly, hooking up the charge controller, batteries, the unloader, all that stuff was easy. The most difficult part of it was mounting it to something. If they had included a flange or some kind of threaded coupler to hook it to a pipe, it would have been an easy peasy process to start with. So wind, it can supplement your system. It cannot, with this small system, maintain it. Just hooking one 200 watt solar panel to it's gonna outperform that tenfold. Even now we have a steady 10 to 15 mile per hour wind, and we're only getting, 15 watts out of it at the most. Like, it's blowing a little harder now. Flag is blowing over there pretty hard. Not intense winds, but steady enough to keep that puppy rolling. So guys, if you joined us for our wind turbine video and you're new here, don't bounce out after these videos. Stick around. We do lots of experimental videos. We did a diesel heater a few weeks ago as well. We're going to keep experimenting with this system. We have some actually additional batteries we're going to hook up to our main system, and we're going to have our first full summer of this new system and see how good it takes care of us. I'm excited to get through the next couple months of winter here and see how much I could do with this new system. These batteries are going to be full most of the summer, and we're going to have all this extra power, 3,600 watts of solar panels. We're going to try to dump it into a few things. The last few years previously, we've been dumping power into power stations and using that around the property, and just being very we just try to make use of power. I don't like it to go to waste. So guys, thanks for hanging out with us during this wind turbine video. I'm sorry I don't have like some magical equation for you to say wind works and it's the best. It is fun to mess around with. It does power a 12-volt battery and recharge a 12-volt battery. I think if you had a cabin that you went to once a month, I think it'd be cool and be useful there if you have a lot of wind, especially if you're in the woods. But if you're in the woods, you're not going to probably have a lot of good wind. So I think it would be good for a system that you're going to visit once a month, like let's say an off-grid cabin or vacation cabin, and you want to have a backup system and trickle charge a battery for lights and small appliances once in a while. It's not going to keep up with a full-time life in this lifestyle. So stick with us and see how this one panel is going to help this system function, and see what we can accomplish with it in the future. We're getting to a fun part of year here where the winter is going to be mostly over, like somewhat over. We're like halfway through winter, and then we can have some more fun projects. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Hit that like button and subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you in the next video.